All right. If you can believe it, we are here at the very end of day 2 of Game Over Cancer. Can we get some excitement for all the donations, all the support, all the raids that we got from people, just everything, the PBs. Like this was all because of you, chat. You all worked so hard. And what better way to end the day than to twist our minds a little bit and maybe change our perspective. And so we have Ozmourn here with a glitchless run of Superliminal. So I'm gonna pass it over, and they will take it away.
Thank you so much for that amazing intro, Catnip. I hope everyone's doing well on this amazing Tuesday night. Thank you so much to Stricer for having me on and for having me close out Tuesday night for Game Over Cancer. This is, of course, a really important cause to me as I myself have lost family members to cancer. And so I'm very glad to be here supporting that kind of initiative. And first and foremost, I am here with Superliminal, which is my main speed game. It is the category in which this is the game in which I spend the most time in, and the community that I spend the most time around. And it's an absolutely amazing game. The category you're going to be seeing today is Glitchless, which is the most like beginner-friendly category that there is. There is a bit more like I would say visually creative categories, to put it for lack of a better word. But for the one you're going to be seeing today is really cool in the sense that there's going to be a lot of really intuitive and clever skips that we're going to be doing without performing any glitches. And what you're going to be seeing here is, in my opinion, one of the most approachable speedruns ever. And if you're like looking for a new game to get into, or if it's like a game that you've never speedrun anything before and you're wondering, oh, what should I start with? I think you should start with this. So Superliminal, Glitchless, a really good category. It's our most popular one for good reason, because again, people just really like it, and it's a really approachable speedrun. And so timing will not begin when we enter the first level. We're going to sign the terms of service for good luck. Timing is going to begin when we go through that first door. And so the run will start in 3, 2, 1, go. So Superliminal, what is Superliminal? What is the mechanics here? The mechanics is that perception is reality. And what does that mean? It means that objects in this game are as big or as small as the player perceives them to be, which means that you can physically manipulate the objects to make them bigger or smaller depending on your perception. And so one good example right here is I'm making this cube a bit bigger. So, it's all depending on how you physically see the object, and so you can pretty much pick them up from any distance and make them smaller and resize them amongst walls and ceilings. And one really good example is going to be up in this next room, where there's going to be a little piece of cheese on this table. And we're going to resize it with the door frame, and oh, I've dropped the cheese. There we go. Perfect. Okay, yeah, and that's that's probably like the most ideal example of the mechanic that we're gonna be having in this game. We're gonna make objects really small and really big, depending on what we need. So induction right here is probably one of the harder levels in this game. It's a very reset heavy level for that reason, and also because it's the first level. And every first level in a video game has to go through reset hell. But right here, it kind of gives like a really good introduction, both in the speed run and also casually, to just the basic mechanics of the game. And there's a lot of really precise movement. It's a harder level than it looks, and it's really hard one to optimize, especially if you're new. But right here, it's an example of something that kind of lines up for us perfectly in this game, in which we can just resize that door onto the wall and then line it up perfectly to go over both buttons and open that door for us. This strat you're going to be seeing right here actually has a really cool name. It's called Dairy Free, in which when you open that door, or when you push down that button to open the door, there's a small wall that we just pushed over right there, and that is scripted to fall down. And if you push the wall over before it actually you push the wall over before it finishes falling down. While it's moving, the physics of that wall are kind of unlocked, and so you can physically push the object. And the reason it's called dairy free is because there's supposed to be a slice of cheese that you use in order to that you're supposed to make bigger and physically knock down the wall like we did with our body. But doing that is a slightly like slower, like less than a second slower strat, but it is 1,000 times more consistent than the strat that we've currently come up with for like using the cheese. And this next level is called optical, and as the name implies, it's all about optical illusions. And so you're going to be seeing a lot of those here. For example, this door right here, or this hallway right here that you think is a painting, and then surprise, surprise, it's a hallway. Starting off, we're not going to be doing anything with optical illusions right here, but instead we're going to be resizing this sign and turning it into a ramp. And as is the nature with glitchless and no major glitches runs, stuff like that is going to be you're going to be seeing a lot, and the majority of the time saves we get in this category are based off of movement and smaller time saves such as cutting corners or avoiding ledge grab animations. And one thing that you're going to be seeing right here is probably the first intended skip of the run per se. And what I just did right there was jump resizing, which I put an object underneath myself, and then I jumped, click, click, and then with that I can resize the object underneath me. And that was actually meant to be an intended mechanic put in by the devs, but they decided to scrap it because they thought it'd be a bit too complicated for the casual player to figure out, and so instead we use it to speedrun strat. And I might be using it as a backup later. And as I was explaining that, you probably just saw a lot of crazy things happen, such as me using that door as making it bigger and using it as a ramp up the stairs, or me just taking the chess piece out of the wall so that the giant hole comes here. And that's pretty much the entire premise of optical, in which you look at objects a certain way and suddenly they become solid objects, as optical illusions usually work. And now we are going to be doing what any natural person would do, and we're going to grab the moon, and the exit is just on the moon. We're going to resize it onto this lamp right there on the side, and now we can just walk through. And that's how the majority of these levels are going to end, with this little hallway sequence, just going straight into there. And once you get into this hallway, it's just an 8-second trigger until the level finishes. So that is optical, and the next level that we're going to go straight into is cubism. And I forgot to mention that this game does have an in-game timer, as you can see in the top left corner, that takes out loads, and so that in itself just makes it a much more even playing field for the rest of the community, and a larger barrier of entry, or a larger opening for entry, I should say. And so right here is cubism, but ironically, the first puzzle that we have, we're not going to be using any cubes. Instead, we're just going to be jumping onto this pole and skipping the cube entirely. But every cube from here on out is going to have like a little bit of a twist. Like, for example, you think that's going to be a whole cube, and now it's just a half cube. Or you think that this cube right here is going to be a normal cube, but surprise, it's part of the floor. And so this level cubism is actually a really, really optimized level. Most of the golds or PVs for this particular level is very close for a lot of the top runners, because in reality there's not a lot to like skip. The majority of what we do is like just really optimized movement. For example, that thing that I just did right there just saved me like less than half a second, but it's a really optimized strategy, because it avoided a ledge grab animation, which you lose like 0.2 seconds every single time that you do one of those. And so that's just kind of goes to show how optimized cubism as a whole is. As you can see here, we're going to be using the side of this cube. Again, we think it's going to be a whole cube, but it's not. We're going to balance it and walk on there, and use the corner of this exploding cube in order to get up on here. There's a slightly faster way of doing that, in which you resize it and avoid the ledge grab animation, but for me it's just a bit inconsistent. So and this ending, we're just going to time our jump at the very end so we don't get stuck on that cube that broke open. And then we're just going to walk backwards straight into this hallway, just like I mentioned before. Each level will end in this hallway sequence, and that is cubism. As a whole, that's a very optimized level. It's probably the easiest level to improve and get better at, and have a really good grasp of the mechanics of this game. And right here, we're going to be going straight into Blackout. And as I shouldn't say as the name implies, but this kind of turns into a more metaphorical sense of the theme of perception is reality. And this is where the tone of the game kind of shifts into what a casual player could believe is a horror game. As you can see, the lights are starting to flicker here, and the loud sounds will happen. And so throughout the rest of this level, you're going to see a lot of different horror tropes, such as blood on the floor, and just overall very eerie sense of the eerie sense that you're going to be having throughout the majority of the level. And so it kind of turns that perception's reality thing, as I said, into more of a metaphorical sense, because the level is only as scary as a player perceives it to be. There are some smaller strats that we have here in this level, but the majority of it, as I said, is just movement. And so right here, there's a bridge that you're supposed to use the light on the light in the pits to navigate your way towards, but obviously we as speedrunners just know and you can jump across. And smaller time saves such as this, like me jumping upstairs because your speed decreases when you go up ramps. You're going to be seeing me doing that a lot throughout the game, and smaller stuff like that just kind of builds up throughout the run. But as you can see here, there's like a head in the window, or like the diet sodas that you just saw that said die die die, and then they're just diet sodas. And so that you can see, I like to watch a lot of casual players play this game, and they sometimes become legitimately terrified at this section, despite the fact that they're not in any real danger. But now that I've gone through that, we can go into the real meat of this section of Blackout and do a really cool strat called Blind Maze. You're originally supposed to take a light source through this maze, but if you know what you're doing, you can actually just go through the maze by yourself, and boom, you're at the end. And the reason that that works is because when you saw me walk backwards into the maze, and that's because when you fall into the maze after going into it, and you have your quality settings turned all the way down, and you're in a relatively dark room the way I am right now, you can see a little horizontal line of light that peeks through some of the boxes in that maze, and that you can use that as kind of like a reference point for your movement. As long as you have that in your line of sight, you know where you are in the maze, and you should be able to like navigate through it pretty cleanly. And overall, that is just the main strat of Blackout. There's not much else to say about it other than the movement. But here at the end, you can see that the lights have lit up, and there's really nothing to be afraid of. All of the paint on all of the blood on the floor was just red paint, and they're serving beans in the cafeteria because it is Sunday in this game, and so there's really nothing to be afraid of. Again, perception is reality turns it into more of a metaphorical sense, and because the game is only as scary as the player perceives it to be. But now that we're done with Blackout, we're going to go straight into clone. And as, of course, the name implies, we are going to be cloning objects, but ironically speaking, the first puzzle in this section does not actually involve any cloning. As you can see right here, we're just going to be taking this door, and we're going to be using it for a puzzle later in which we have to use it to open a button, or open a door by putting it on a button, I should say. And just for fun, we're going to see what radio station we land on right here. Radio station number 4. Hope you guys like this music. Okay. So that first puzzle is, of course, to subvert your expectations, and you get to this puzzle, and suddenly you can clone objects willy-nilly. And so the rules for cloning objects in this game, admittedly, are a little inconsistent, and you're going to see a good example of that right here. In this clock room, I'm going to clone these objects, but as you can see here, when I cloned that clock and turned it into a ramp, I could physically pick up the clones that I created, and you're gonna see that exact same thing happen in this green apple room. Like right here, I physically picked up the green apple, and I was able to move it. But as you can see right here with the red apple, when I just cloned it, I couldn't move around the object. It kind of just fall to the floor the moment that you clone it. And so the rules for cloning specific objects in this level are inconsistent with one another. There's not really one set rule. There's two set rules, but casually speaking, when you're playing this for the first time, you wouldn't know what rules would have to apply to which objects. It would just depend on what the puzzle needs. But of course, we as speedrunners, that's not a problem for us because we know what each object does, and we know how each object works. For example, this sign that we duplicate right here to turn into a staircase. We know that we can't actually physically pick up these signs; they just fall to the floor the moment that we clone them. And you can right click to bring all the clones back to their original location, and they don't have collision when you do that, when you like right click on them, and so you can see me just walk through them right there. But right here, we're just gonna go straight into the end hallway and go and finish clone. And there's a really nice achievement in clone in which if you were to clone 100 of the same object, which is the maximum amount of objects you can clone, a maximum amount of one object you can clone, the game will give you an achievement called "Why Are You Like This?" Because honestly, why are you like this? But now that we have finished clone, we're going to go straight into everyone's favorite level, I say sarcastically, Dollhouse. The Dollhouse as a level is the most inconsistent when it comes to most players' gameplay, including my own. And the reason that is because it takes the resizing mechanic and turns it into a much more inconsistent light, a much more harder to manage light. And the reason that being is because you're going to be physically resizing the portals that you walk through, and in effect resizing yourself. So one good example of that is right here. this dollhouse is really small, we're going to make it really big, and we're going to walk through it. But as you can see, when you're resizing the dollhouse, you're also resizing everything in it, and in effect, you're also resizing yourself, because I don't trust that. There, as you can see a visible difference between the two resizes that I just did right there. One of them I was smaller, and the other one I was bigger. And so you want to be you don't want to be too big, because otherwise you won't be able to fit through the other side of the door, like the other portal on the other end of the room. But you don't want to be too small, because then you're going to be walking really, really slowly, and those are both just horrendous time losses throughout this level. I just did the most important strat in the game: radio skip. You just put the radio as a ramp, saves less than a second. Right here, we're gonna play some Jenga. We're gonna take this fan and we're gonna toss it. We're gonna toss this Jenga tower down, and then we're gonna resize this window in this room. And if I'm good, that wasn't the best, but it was decent. It was decent enough, and you know what? That's what I'm going for right now. And we're just gonna use that window and to go into this next section, this bouncy castle section. And bouncy castle, you say? Yeah, it's right here. We're going to be resizing this bouncy castle throughout this hallway, and then we're going to line it up with a small visual cue right here, so the moment that we can set it down, we can just walk straight through it perfectly like that. And then we're going to take this same bouncy castle and then resize it here onto this plank so that we can walk through the door up top. And we're gonna have one last strat in this pretty cool room, the green room, or the keyhole room, in which we just fall through a portal as it's walk through a portal as it's falling down, and so we can get through the keyhole immediately, and then exit to the end of the level by resizing that last dollhouse in the keyhole itself. And so that is Dollhouse. Overall, that was a pretty good run for Dollhouse, but overall, and it's just generally the most inconsistent wise kind of level in the run, especially when you're starting out, because just the mechanic of resizing portals is really hard to manage at first. So right here, it is a new level, Labyrinth, and you're going to see me starting off with a trick right off the bat. You're going to see me doing what seems like senseless parkour, but it does have a purpose. That purpose being, there are 5 audio triggers littered throughout this hallway, and we have found a way to skip 3 of them, and only skipping 2 of them saves time. But as you can see, I'm physically jumping over the audio triggers to not activate them. I'm skipping 2 of them in total. That'll lead me to getting to this last one as soon as possible. As you can see here, that the last one starts with instruction, continue with Scott Scott therapy. So I successfully completed both of the audio skips. That's why I have subtitles on. But just so I can show that off. And the reason that we want to skip those audio files is because we can get teleported to the bedroom the moment that the last audio line ends. And so and now what you're gonna be seeing me do here is I'm gonna be lining myself up with a certain visual cues on the wall, so that the moment that I get teleported back into the bedroom, I can just immediately click on the alarm clock, because whenever you get teleported back, your vertical positioning doesn't change, but your horizontal positioning does. And as you can see here, we're going to walk through this cafeteria, and I'm going to do a frame perfect trick. Get it? Because I perfectly went through the frame. But shout outs to Hippienator for that amazing joke that I always like to steal from him. But the majority of the rest of Labyrinth is going to be kind of like subverting your expectations. And for example, right here, you think it's gonna be a hallway, but boom, you walk down. Look, can we get the early door grab here? We certainly did. We want to grab this door through the door frame that we did up there. The reason being because with the moment that sign falls down in front of the door, that's when you can actually interact with it and fall through the floor. And so the earlier you grab it, the earlier that timer starts, and so you can just immediately go through the floor the moment that the sign falls down. And again, we're mainly going to be subverting expectations here. For example, you thought we were going to use the stairs to climb up. No, we're going to use it to fall through the floor, because, why else would you use stairs for? We're going to bring a souvenir with us. There we go. And the puzzle that I'm going to go into right now is actually the hardest puzzle in the game casually, mainly because it has not the best direction as to what you're supposed to do. And right here, you can see that I'm looking the opposite direction of where the sign is telling me, because whatever way I look first is going to have the stop, do not enter signs. And the second way that I look is going to have a door, and you want the door to be in the direction that the arrow is pointing. And so that's how you solve that puzzle. This next puzzle, I'm going to be using jump resizing again to go straight through the middle of this pool room. So some decent movement there. And taking this queen, putting on the button, surprise, it's just a painting. And we're going to use this knight instead. Actually, you can stay on this table. There we go. These next few rooms, I'm just going to be like grabbing these blocks and it's going to be teleporting me to different parts of the map. Again, just trying to subvert your expectations, and you never really know what's going to come next in this level casually. But this next strat that I'm going to be doing is a specific pattern in something called elevator maze. This pattern is back, left, right, back. Boom. And so do you have a specific pattern that we go through the maze? A lot of people think that's RNG, but the intended mechanic, the intended solution they're supposed to do is just get lost in the maze until you find arrows on the floor that tell you what to do. And right here, there is a parking lot that you think is a regular parking lot, but no, it has walls. It's not. It's just a room. But the walls don't actually appear until you're close enough to them, and you don't have to actually be facing them to activate them. And if you activate them, boom, you can unlock the room in the center of the bigger room and hit the alarm clock from really, really far away. So right here is the last level, which is white space. And the first thing that we're going to be doing is putting a portal into itself and creating a paradox, naturally as one does, breaking the time, breaking the fabric of time and space. But as this cutscene is playing out, I don't really have much to say about white space other than a few specific strats that I will explain when they happen. But before those happen, we do have some walking, so if Cousin Catnip would like to say some donations or any other plugs, he can do so now.
All right. Well, what a fast-paced run. I'm loving this. I'm loving this right now. At the moment, there's no donations, but I do have to say, chat, you all have done amazing work. We are super close to getting that Azure Striker Gunvolt 3 upgrade to all missions. Only $75 away for that. That would be fun to see. That's happening on day 5. And so far, y'all have been killing it. Keep up the good work. We're just trying to get to that 1,000. And yeah, I'll pass it back, Ozmourn. Keep it up.
Thank you so much, Cousin Catnip. All right, so you're going to be seeing me do an interesting strat here that kind of looks like nothing, but it actually has a pretty nice effect throughout the overall throughout the overall movement of this particular level. The moment that I see the checkpoint icon, I'm going to be resetting checkpoint, and the reason that is because the portals that lead you to the different parts of like the level geometry in this game for this specific level are kind of messed up in the sense that most portals are meant to like put you back to size 1, which is like the default size that you have, but for some reason the portals in this specific level as you progress are a bit wonky, and they'll make you slightly bigger starting at size 0.98 instead of size 1. But if you reset the checkpoint right there, you're going to go back to size 1, and then you're going to be slightly bigger throughout the rest of the level and move slightly faster and progressively get bigger as you move on, because the rest of the portals are also going to make you bigger because they're just kind of wonky like that. And so with that, just resetting checkpoint, you're going to have like a free like 2-second time save. But right here, again, white space is just kind of more of like it's an existential part of the game story-wise. You've gone through all of these dream sequences in dream therapy, and you're going to go to white space in which you realize the happiness was inside you all along. It's just based on your perception. But right here, white space itself is probably the longest. It is the longest level in the glitchless category. Ironically, though, it's the shortest level in pretty much every glitched category because of how many amazing glitches that you can do. I highly recommend checking out other glitch categories of this game as well. But because of the way that the level geometry is, the end of the level is really close to the beginning of the level in the physical level geometry, and so you can kind of just glitch your way to the end in like 17 seconds. I'm pretty sure that's the record for any percent/warpless. And so if you are interested in looking at that, I highly recommend checking it out. You saw me turn around, and that actually does have significance. After turning off the lights, you want to turn around, or at least move your mouse in order to have it like appear over those signs that you saw. The reason being is that if you do that and then you walk backwards, if you just walk backwards, your crosshair is supposed to disappear when you turn off the lights, and if you never like move your mouse, the crosshair will just not come back. You will still be able to pick up objects, but you just physically cannot see your crosshair. And so now that I've explained the smaller details, I'm going to go into two pretty nice strats at the very end here. I'm going to be taking, this is called one piece, or one chess piece I should say, and these tiles on the floor are only ever solid when there is a chess piece underneath them. And so instead of using 2 chess pieces alternating between each tiles, I'm taking 1 chess piece. I'm going to be jumping, and then in midair, I'm moving the chess piece from one tile to the other. It's a lot of really fast inputs, all in quick succession, and so it takes a lot of practice starting out. And right here, I'm going to do another pretty good example jump resizing in order to do something called cheese skip. Originally, you're supposed to go into another room and grab a cheese ramp that'll lead you up to a slice of cheese that you're supposed to use as a ramp to lead you up to that door. But instead, we just use jump resizing. I will say a huge photosensitivity warning for people right now. This is what we call the bitrate hallway. All of these tiles on the wall are just using your camera, as you can see are just like reflections of your camera. And so if you are photosensitive, you can look back now. And right here, that is the end of white space. This is a 23-second fall as we wait for it to turn to 8 o'clock. We're going to fall down. It's going to turn 8 o'clock. It's going to be a fade out and then a loading screen. At the other side of that loading screen will be time. Just please make sure you're ready on that, because I might fumble up the countdown here depending on how long the load is. 3, 2, 1. Time. You need to hit the alarm clock. That's when time is. So 22:28.2 as a final time. That is a really respectable and really good time in the marathon setting, and so I'm more than happy with that. If you liked what you saw here, if you're into games like Portal or Antichamber or a lot of other puzzle games or first-person platformers, I highly recommend checking this game out. It's a really nice indie game made by Pillow Castle, and Albert Chi is an absolutely amazing developer. He's done a lot of really good work with this game over the years, and in the development process. I highly recommend checking it out. It is on Steam, it is on Epic Games, it is on GOG, and so any gaming store that you like to purchase your games at, it's on there. And it's also for every platform, including console, Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, any console, like any platform, any console, any way that you can grab this game. I highly recommend checking it out. We have a lot of different categories, glitch categories, really fast categories. If you're really feeling up to the challenge, you can torture yourself with any percent, but that's your prerogative. People have done that. But Glitchless itself, as I said at the beginning, is a really approachable category. It's a category that most people start off with, and so I highly recommend trying that out if you are interested in this run. And so yeah, as I said, go pick this game up on Steam. Shout out to everyone in the Discord, in the speedrunning community as a whole. I highly I love every single one of them, and like they are the reason why I keep speedrunning this game and coming back to it all the time, because the community is everything when it comes to speedrunning stuff. And I absolutely love every single one of them. They've done amazing stuff for this game, and for the Glitchless category, and also for every other category. We're gonna be planning some good stuff. We're currently working on a segmented run as well, and hopefully when I can get off my butt and actually start planning another thing, I want to do another tournament soon. And so there's a lot of good stuff that are going to be planned for the near future of Superliminal, and so right now I would say is a really good time to get into it, especially if you're going to get into something for the first time. The community is amazing. LucasMontreal.com, join the Discord, all that jazz. I've pretty much plugged most things that I want to plug. If you want to catch me or any of the other stuff that I do, follow me on Twitter, Ozmourn, YouTube, Ozmourn, Twitch, Ozmourn. I'm Ozmourn on every single platform you can imagine. But again, thank you so much to Strizer for having me on for Game Over Cancer. It's a really important cause that holds near and dear to my heart. Thank you so much to Cousin Catnip for hosting this run, and thank you so much to everyone for watching. I highly recommend picking this game up, and yeah, that's pretty much enough from me. I've been talking a lot, so my name is Ozmourn. This has been Superliminal Glitchless, and I hope you guys have a really good night. Thank you so much for having me close out this night for y'all.
Awesome, fantastic run, Ozmourn. Thank you so much. Thanks for bending our minds a little bit. Perfect way to end off day 2. And for those that don't know, this is not the end of the marathon. It's only the end for now. So if you want to see Minecraft or The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past randomizer, you got to come back tomorrow. And plus, we got all those incentives we've met. Like live tap dancing on Thursday, or some of the other fun stuff that we have, like coming up. Like the dropping the boulder, or or shredding for Shredder, as we've talked about. So if you haven't had a chance yet, you still got a few more days to get your donation in, to get your support in. Still can win Steam keys, still can win all that good stuff. And I have to say, I have to give a huge shout out to all the runners today. Like people like Mushy Shushy, Parker Dude 999, Dan the VP, Carter Freak, Sinus, Level Up Leo, and of course Ozmourn, our finishing runner here. Fantastic job today. We got to give a huge thanks to all the staff, all the people who've helped behind the scenes, all the people who've made sure all the runners are here and on time, and that everything's running like clockwork. A huge shout out, of course, to Strizer for hosting the event and keeping us all here. And don't forget, there is more coming up. I have to say thank you. There were so many donations today, and we met not just the 500, but a few incentives already met. We've got all sorts of hype coming into day 3. And I have to say, chat, that was all because of you, all because of your support. You're sharing the stream, you're sending it to people, you're giving your money when you can, you're being supportive, you're hyping up other runs. And that's all you need to do to make sure that this event's a success. So keep it up. As we come into the final part of today, my name was Cousin Catnip. I do want to say thank you so much to everyone. If I haven't said it already, we still have more runs coming up tomorrow. And I have to say, this will be it for now. I will see y'all soon. And if you want to catch more, make sure to check the schedule or check all the stuff. All right, have a great night, everyone. Thank you.